Okay, we're setting up the walls initially for the medium rise building. So what I'll get you to do to start with is work your way probably at basement 2 level. You can see things going on a bit better. At basement 2 level, set out the perimeter walls going around the outside perimeter of the building with a new wall type. So from your wall command, you'll want to go into the element properties of the wall you're about to create. You won't have this wall type created already, so make sure you go into edit type. So edit type and then duplicate to give yourself a new wall type. When you go duplicate, give it a name basement wall, and then edit the structure of that wall so it's a 550mm thick. Just use default material at this stage. So give yourself that type of wall there, and when you've got that, proceed to lay your walls out around the outside, the perimeter of the building. So these ones that I've got highlighted through here. Using your grid lines, make sure you're staying 50mm away from the side boundary. You can work your way right to the front and rear boundaries. We've got no neighbours to worry about keeping away from. Then you can go right to boundary in this location. Also in this part here, make sure you're staying 50mm away from the boundary through there, and lay out those walls. When you get them laid out, the properties of those walls, you can change them all at once. The base and top properties of those walls, if you just hover over a wall and click your tab key, you can select a whole joined set of walls in one go. Go up to the element properties of those. Now all of those walls at the moment, send them to basement 3 with an offset of 0, and send them up to level 1 basement, up to level basement 1, sorry, with an offset of about 1200. These are going to then become a footing for the walls that come out above ground line. Above that, those walls will sit on top of these walls like we'd do a footing. So we don't want to take it right up to ground at the moment. We're just taking it up to say 1200 above basement 1. It won't be exactly right, but it'll be a good starting point for us. Okay, when you get those walls laid out, the other thing I'll get you to lay out on grid, intersection of grid Y3 with X1, lay out this column through here. Now what I've got in mind through here when I'm doing this is I've got my eye on the sketch handout through here, and I'm looking at this column in this location here, because what I'm about to do is start setting out these walls around here, and that column there is going to have another wall, one of these walls landing on it. So I want to check the location of that as I go. So set that column out first. You'll get that column from the columns command on your home menu, but do drop the arrow down and make sure you're using architectural columns. I don't want you to use structural columns for this. So pick an architectural column. You won't have it loaded already, so you'll have to go into load family. And when you go into load family, if you don't have under metric library a columns folder there, just have a quick look under International Metric Library and you've probably got a columns folder there. Either place, it doesn't matter. I'm after this M chamfered column. So when you find that chamfered column, we'll just cancel out of that. Just drop your column in place, and it goes in this grid line here. So like I said, the Y3 and it must be X1. The intersection of Y3 and X1 will locate that column. When you get it into place there, just check its element properties, and its element properties would go from basement 3, it needs to go right down to the basement of this, the lower basement here, and send it up to level 1 with an offset of -200. So it'll be just below the feet level at ground floor, the bottom of the slab at level 1. Okay, so that's that column located in place. So the next thing you'll do after you've got the perimeter walls and that column in place is we can start laying out some of these internal walls here. Now I'll do this from ground floor level, and at ground floor level we've got a layout like this, keeping a second eye as you're doing your sketch on the sketch handout. So we're laying out these walls through here, we're laying out the lift shaft, we're laying out the 2 stairwells, etc., and the entry into the 2 stairwells. So keeping an eye on this layout, we'll start to lay it out there now. And I've previously laid these out. It's starting from this intersection of this grid line through here, diagonally opposite where you put the column, and starting the walls from there. Now a lift shaft needs to be 2400 nominally deep, so I've established mine as 2410. That works with blockwork dimensions, including a 10mm mortar joint. In the other direction, so that gives me 2.4. In the other direction, we need 2 metres, so I'm working with 2010 to allow for the blockwork dimensions. Similarly, when you keep working with the other walls, this wall through here, if I just go internal face to internal face, once again that's 1210 for blockwork dimensions, and this centre wall, we've got 1210 there, and we've also got 1210 up there. So far we've worked completely with the blockwork dimensions, and we've got all this area sorted out. Now you then need to bring separate walls, because they've got different heights also, by the way. This wall that I'm highlighting through here at the moment has to be a different wall there. You can't just drag the same one through, because this has got different height properties as that one, and also this wall out here has got different height properties as well. So this wall comes out and then returns up, and I want it to land on as much close as possible to the centre of that column. Now for that reason, this wall I couldn't quite work with blockwork modules. 2610 would work, and then 2810 would work. I've gone halfway in between to 2710, so I'll need a quarter block to be able to make that work, but it's as best I can do, and still only a quarter block anyway. Respecting blockwork dimensions, it's the best I can do and still land very close to the centre of that column. So it's not a bad solution, and we're working with blockwork modules as best we can. This last wall then can go in respecting blockwork dimensions there. Okay, so when you've got that laid out through there, all those walls there, we can then check out what you work out with the properties. Remember, some of these walls can't go right through, they have to be separately split walls. This is the other one I'd like to highlight through. That wall there splits at this point here. Okay, so you can just do it roughly, and we'll then trim it to the right location a little bit later. So the properties of these walls then, looking, if I group those four around the lift shaft, they're the lift shaft walls, so the properties of those go all the way down to basement 3 for a base constraint, offset of 0. Now I'm going to send them up to the roof level with a small offset of 1200. I don't know exactly what it'll be. The lift won't stop at the roof, it'll stop at the floor below, but then it'll need some head height above it, so I'm going to send it up above the roof by a little bit. For the moment, we can work that out a little bit later. Now these three walls here then, if you have a look at your sketch handout and try and work it out, the properties of those go down to basement 3, and they'll go up to level 1 minus 200, so they won't go through level 1, they'll go to this underneath the slab below level 1. So that's those three, and then we've got these remaining ones, which would be these, I guess, these ones that I've highlighted. They go from ground floor with an offset of 0 up to level 1 minus 200. Like I said, check out the sketch handout and you'll get an idea of why I picked those base and top. Now when you get those laid out, we've got this other wall down underneath that you won't have just yet. I'll just go down a level to basement 1, and that's this wall here that you won't just yet have. So that's that wall there, the element properties of that goes from basement 3 up to ground floor with an offset of minus 200 below the slab. When you've got all them in and trimmed up nicely and located, once again respecting blockwork dimension as much as you possibly can, you've laid out all of the walls around the core. And if I just switch to a 3D view, you can get a bit of a 3D view of what we've done so far with that column in place, and then the other walls and so on and so forth. So get to that point, I'll stop the video at this stage and then we'll look at stairs when we come back from the video.